that's an assault on our ego. I wrote about this in my learning to fly the F-22 at Tyndall, and what a total like meltdown I had trying to figure out how Air Force and fifth gen work. And I was a disaster at first, man. It was so hard. And then we take those four communities and make them F-35B pilots. And now we're integrating with the Air Force squadron right next door to the 58th. Awesome, awesome squadron. But they've got Vipers, they've got A-10s, they had an Eagle guy. They had no Raptor guys, which is crazy because that's what they needed more than anything. They had Strike Eagles. So you take all those communities, and you know this as well as anyone. And I learned this at the 422. Those MDSs, they're all different. Their culture, we're all different, all different. And one of the best things I got to do at Nellis flying Raptors was one of the projects that I ran as operational test lead was fifth gen integration. So I led and essentially wrote the test report on how Raptor integrates with all the fourth gen MDSs. And that included Navy Marines, by the way. So Hornets, Eagles, Vipers, and I make the joke like we even let the Strike Eagles do a little air to air with us. To make
We have to bash the Strike Eagles at least once every podcast.
at least so we even let the Dark Grays do it. And I had some joke back in the day where I mentioned that. 16,
15,000. Were you on a path to do the Raptor because you knew you were going to F-35 and we needed some fifth gen transition?
That's right. Yeah, obviously you know this as well as anyone. There are no guarantees in the military, but when I got selected for the F-22 exchange at the 422, it was the closest thing you could have gotten to a guarantee that I was going to go to the F-35. The entire point of the exchange was fifth gen was coming for the Marine Corps. We knew it was going to be a major muscle movement. The Air Force had just introduced the Raptor in 05, had learned a whole bunch of painful, hard-learned lessons. Marine Corps and the Air Force get together and decide, let's send a Marine out there to steal all that conventional knowledge, all that experience, bring it back to the Marine Corps so we don't have to repeat the same mistakes and learn all those hard lessons the Air Force had just figured out with integrating the first fifth-gen platform. So it's as close to a guarantee. It wasn't in writing, but it was pretty much understood that it is very likely the guy who got the Raptor exchange was going to go to F-35, and that's exactly what happened. I left Nellis. I went to Eglin to stand up the first F-35 squadron. The squadron was there, it just didn't have airplanes. I got the first 14 jets, and I IOC'd that squadron, the first operational F-35B squadron in the world, right on the heels of my Raptor exchange. So I went 7 straight years flying fifth gen fighters, dual qualified in both actually for a little while, which was crazy.
Really?
Because it told you good Air Force leadership. We had some delays in the Raptor in the F-35, and everybody had to have what's called a currency plan. And the 53rd Wing let me fly Raptors at Nellis while I was the CO at Eglin as the F-35 skipper to stay current. So I would go back to Nellis and flew the Raptor as a Marine at 501, which is crazy. And they let me do it.
That's really cool. So no other Marines went to the Raptor after you?
Before or since?
Interesting to, as I think about it, right? Like you see it throughout your aviation career. Every time like someone transitioned planes or a new plane is onboarded, whether in the military or a civilian company, like there is the holdover of like, well, that's how we used to do it in this, right? Or you see the spillover from other planes that usually takes a couple years to sort itself out. Like, why were we doing that way? This is not how this plane was designed to be flown, et cetera, et cetera. Never flew the F-35. A lot of buddies flying the F-35. It seems like that mentality, the lessons learned from the Raptor, hey, we're not going to repeat those same mistakes with F-35. And while it took a couple years, at least in the Air Force, hearing my buddies talk about, well, he's an A-10 guy or he's a Strike Eagle guy. At some point, man, they just flip the switch and like, no, you're an F-35 guy. This plane is flown this way.
Yep.
But that's a big ask to onboard a fifth generation fighter, bring guys in through a transition, and then like also figure out how do we best employ this plane, which, oh, by the way, is going through constant block upgrades.
Totally.
And each upgrade is going to be like, boom, hey, here's new magic. And it's going to change how you implement and how you utilize that tool. Talk to me about, some of the challenges with that.
You hit the nail on the head, man. It is no small task. It was not easy. I don't have any math to prove it, but it takes about 6 months for that light switch to flip. if at all. Sometimes people resist it. I lived that certainly. Yeah, I even thinking about it now, just how crazy it was. Only Marine to ever flown the F-22. I was the first pilot in the world to be qualified in both the F-22 and F-35, and I was the only
That's
dual
cool.
qualified fifth gen guy for like 6 or 7 years, which is crazy as a Marine.
Yeah.
But when I stood up the first F-35 squadron, we started doing all the tactics and all the development. We were the only squadron. I was leveraging all my Raptor experience. One of the biggest challenges I had was when I started training the pilots at the Marine Corps Squadron VMFAT 501, which at the time was at Eglin, part of the 33rd Fighter Wing, because it was an integrated wing with one Navy, one Marine, one Air Force F-35 squadron. I almost describe it this way, and it's exacerbated for you, but for me, it was like almost four different communities. I had Hornet pilots and Harrier pilots. It's a little bit different, but in the Marine Corps, West Coast Hornets and East Coast Hornets are very different cultures, very different mindsets. I don't know if you saw this, between like Luke and Shaw, but it seems like the coast had their own way of doing things, and so it was almost like East Coast Hornets, West Coast Hornets, East Coast Harriers, West Coast Harriers was four different communities, and I had to bring four different communities with four different mindsets, four different cultures, and be like, you are F-35 pilots now. You're not a East Coast Harrier dude, not a West Coast Hornet dude. We are F-35 pilots. And it's basically like saying, like everything you know, everything you think, everything you do doesn't apply anymore. And listen, man, that's an assault on our ego. I wrote about this in my learning to fly the F-22 at Tyndall, and what a total like meltdown I had trying to figure out how Air Force and fifth gen work. And I was a disaster at first, man. It was so hard. And then we take those four communities and make them F-35B pilots. And now we're integrating with the Air Force squadron right next door to the 58th. Awesome, awesome squadron. But they've got Vipers, they've got A-10s, they had an Eagle guy. They had no Raptor guys, which is crazy because that's what they needed more than anything. They had Strike Eagles. So you take all those communities, and you know this as well as anyone. And I learned this at the 422. Those MDSs, they're all different. Their culture, we're all different, all different. And one of the best things I got to do at Nellis flying Raptors was one of the projects that I ran as operational test lead was fifth gen integration. So I led and essentially wrote the test report on how Raptor integrates with all the fourth gen MDSs. And that included Navy Marines, by the way. So Hornets, Eagles, Vipers, and I make the joke like we even let the Strike Eagles do a little air to air with us, to
I
make
love, we have to bash the Strike Eagles at least once every
at
podcast. So
least.
this is good.
So we even let the Dark Grays do it. And I had some joke back in the day where I mentioned that how we integrated those airplanes is all different. So the F-35 as a community had to take all these incredibly capable, incredibly competent, deeply rooted cultural histories and turn them into F-35 pilots. That is really hard to do. Like, hard to overstate how difficult that is. And the fact that we have come so far and done so well with that is a testament to the leadership inside those communities. But the way you describe that is right, man. Like, dude, that is it's hard to overstate how difficult that is from a leadership standpoint.
I can believe it. Again, you're worried about tactics, how to figure out how to best employ this plane. And I think, again, another example, the unclassified version for those who are listening, like I got two, one being I'm down in the Raptor briefing rooms at Tyndall before that got wiped off the face of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
earth with
yeah.
Hurricane Michael. And there are whiteboards and there are chalkboards, right? And the chalkboards being a holdover
With
from
the
the
C
Eagle
models.
community.
Totally.
They love their chalk, right?
Totally.
But like if that, right, that mentality, just think about how that, propagates throughout everything else that's done, and just how challenging it is to kind of overcome and battle that, right? Like
Dude,
that's a
I,
tough ask.
I remember one of the first service integration things we did. The first thing we're talking about was just what formation we were going to push in. We're going to push in a wall. And somebody said offset battle box. And someone said, we don't say box, we say container. And like all of a sudden, like within about 30 seconds, dude, this thing divests into like this full on argument of like how we're going to push. How are we going to
Yeah,
push? And like Viper guys had their own mindsets, Eagle guys had their own mindsets, Hornet guys, we all had, and we are all so sure we are all right. And so
yeah.
you can imagine, what some of those throwdowns were, just trying to let go of some of that long history too. So it was quite a challenging time. The most fun you could ever have because it's that's what you want to be doing is figuring out how to build and develop tactics
Yeah,
for a
that's
brand
cool.
new airplane. It's freaking awesome. But dude, not easy, man. Big personalities, a lot of
Yeah.
experience, and success. I mean, you can't look at the C model community and say anything other than like, well, what you guys did worked. So we should probably be listening to you. Same thing for Viper. Like, so all these platforms steeped in incredible success in their history, and they brought with them strong opinions, rightfully so, because what they had been doing had been working for so long. You kind of have to get that stuff off the table and in a lot of ways start fresh, which is not easy to do, man. Not easy to do.
Yeah. But cool environment to be a part of, right?
Oh,
Something new. And then everyone in that room wants to win,
yes.
right? Make it the best.
Yep.
Just balancing,
It was a good
who's
time,
gonna
man.
yeah, yeah, that's who's gonna win.